Hey Kevin, Chris Campbell from the outfield. Just wondering how it's been, kind of getting back in the rhythm of things for you lately. I know you were out and Christian McFarland kind of stepped in, and how does the competition now at that position kind of push you going forward?
Hey, thanks for the question. Yeah, in terms of my recovery, I'm feeling much better. I dealt with, a couple hamstrings back to back, and the second one took a little bit longer to recover from. But I think with the international break, it's given me a bit more time to regain fitness, and I'm feeling a lot better. And yeah, I think the competition has been great. I think Christian has stepped in and done really well. And so I think it's a good situation to have for the team. It advances that position and gives us good depth, going into a lot of big and important games.
Michael?
Hey, Kevin, it's Mike Andrew from Blue City Radio. Thanks for the time. Uh, I don't know, maybe we're looking too much into this, but the game plan versus Columbus in the last game um, seemed like a very high press, and I was curious if the game plan dictates how Nick is choosing the lineup as opposed to, so maybe you have different skill set than Christian, and that's something we should look into. What how the team is going to approach an opponent based on the lineup Nick chooses.
Um, I mean, I think the our mindset is always to be a pressing team, regardless of what opponent we play. I think our press was quite strong in that Columbus game for large parts of it, and I think both of us are more than capable of pressing and being someone that can defend high up the field. So I don't think in a defensive sense it's it doesn't change much in terms of who we're putting out there.
Andrew?
Hey, Andrew Lee from Hudson River Blue. You guys have had better success on the road this season than you did in 2023, but you still have kind of gone a while since winning an away game. How do you sort of, what do you look at as areas that you kind of need to collectively improve on, and especially knowing how DC plays stylistically and that they're at home? What are you kind of like guys focusing on going into the matchup, just as you try to improve your road form lately in the late part of the season?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just the ability to close out games. I think we've been, somewhat content with the performance for the first, 70, 80 minutes of large parts of these games, and then it's just about closing out the last parts of the game, and I think that's no secret, and that's something that we've been trying to address in this 2 week period, and I think it's the 2 weeks has afforded us a good opportunity to get after it on the training pitch and really address some of these areas. So I think as long as we commit to a similar level of performance on the ball and the way in the aggression that we press with, and now buckling down and making sure we see out a result.
Oliver?
Hi, thank you. This is Oliver Strand with Hudson River Blue. I've got a broader question, kind of a bigger question. Um, this weekend, it's going to be warm, not incredibly hot, but kind of warm in DC, a little bit humid, not incredibly humid, but definitely more of a summer day than a classic fall day. Before New York, you were playing college ball, which is a fall sport. What's it like to play in the summer in the US, where in the south it can be hot, in the northeast it can be really humid and swampy? What's it like? How does it affect your game? How different is it? How difficult is it? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor. I mean, at the end of the day, it affects both teams out on the field. But if you travel down to Texas for a game in July, even if it's a 8 o'clock kickoff, it's going to be really hot. And I think when you stack a lot of the density of the schedule was really high during the summer months, and we were playing a lot of midweek games, and a lot of those were in heat. And so it's definitely a factor. But at the end of the day, we try to recognize that it's affecting both teams. So really, no team should have one advantage over the other. But yeah, it can be tough, especially with those 3 week games.
Last
I'm
question?
sorry, can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Just a quick follow-up. How does it affect the European players, especially their first year in MLS? Is there a little bit of shock, like, jumping into a pool and you don't know what the temperature is, like what's it like for, say, a Swede or a Serbian who has never done it on a July night in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine you'd have to ask them, but I'd imagine that it's, a bit of a factor. I think another thing I'd say is that we train almost midday throughout the summer, and so that's a good way for us to acclimate to the heat. And so a lot of those guys, they're not just experiencing it on game days; they're also experiencing it during the week when we're out on the training pitch, and so that can kind of get them used to sort of the conditions in the U.S. over the summer.
Great. Last question, Chris.
Hey Kevin, the first time you guys played against DC United, you held them scoreless and did a good job defending Christian Benteke. How do you look to keep that up here on the road against DC?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good format for us. I think it was a 2-0 win at home, and we limited them to very few chances, especially in the box and in aerial battles with Benteke. And I think that's kind of the key is to, we know they want to get the ball in wide areas and get balls in the box, and the more that we can block crosses and defend the box well, the better chance that we'll have. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and I think we just got to execute on that plan.